Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Whatcha Watching right here on the Hollywood Critics Association Facebook page, YouTube channel, and Twitter feed. So today we are very excited to have many members of the Hollywood Critics Association with us. We have three, in fact. Last time we had two. Today we have three. We're growing in popularity each and every day. And we are going to introduce them one by one, starting with Mr. Terence Johnson.
Hi.
So you need to let everyone know, Terence, this is your first time on the show, where they can find you and what you do.
You can find me at lenoirtour.net. It's LENOIRAUTEUR.net. And then I'm at Terence B. Johnson on Twitter and Instagram. And that's Terence with one R, no A.
All right. Awesome.
And I'm a critic,
and then
like these other people.
And then we have Aaron Neuwirth.
Hey, that's the best I could do with a fancy intro.
There you go. I love it.
I am writing for Week of Entertainment and Why So Blue. I also have my personal blog, thecodyzeke.com. All the things that I do end up over there. And I host a podcast with my friend Abe, out now with Aaron and Abe. That's on iTunes. We talk about weekly movie releases. And obviously, we're just swimming with movies these days. And I'm on Twitter at AaronsPS4.
All right. Awesome. And then last but not least, the madman, the box office champ right here, Scott Mendelson.
3 more weeks till Unhinged. 3 more weeks till Unhinged. It's almost here.
And everyone could find Scott Mendelson at Scott Mendelson on Twitter.
Yes.
All right. So Aaron was kind enough because he knows his jam and he's been doing a podcast much longer than I have. And he has suggested that we start from newest release to oldest release. So we're going to start off with a film that is not out officially yet. Scott Mendelson, what is that movie? What you watching and what movie is it?
Tenet. I'm kidding. It's not Tenet. Train to Busan presents Peninsula, the sequel to, or more spin-off sequel, whatever, to the 2016 South Korean zombie smash Train to Busan, which was a critical and commercial hit 4 years ago, made about 140 million worldwide, give or take. This film has been out in several high-profile Asian countries, including obviously South Korea, for the last 10 days or so, give or take. So far, it's made around 21 million in South Korea. It's made around 27 and change worldwide. It is by far the closest thing we've had to an actual summer box office hit since late February. Let's be honest. We're not counting Trolls, and it's a whopping $5 million domestic. It takes place approximately 4 years after the events of the first film with different characters. Without going into spoilery details, because the film is supposed to come out in U.S. theaters on August 21st, fingers crossed. It is about a ragtag group of survivors who venture into a quarantine zone to find some missing money. Slight spoiler, things do not go as planned.
You don't say. You don't say.
I do say.
That classic plot where people go into a quarantine zone to find lost money. Oh, man.
All right. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to put Aaron and Scott on the screen, and you guys can talk a little bit about the film and what your initial impressions were. And me and Terence are actually going to drop off just for a second so you guys can chat.
Oh, hi. I know you. First.
I was able to see the movie, and I was very happy to. I'm a huge fan of Train to Busan. I'm a huge fan of zombie movies. So seeing a sequel to a zombie movie that I liked is certainly a rewarding opportunity. And this one did not disappoint. What I like about it is that it's very much not trying to be the same thing again. It is changing its, as you've mentioned already in the plot, like it already has a different kind of vibe as far as what it's attempting to do. And I think it's quite successful in being essentially Escape from South Korea, Fury Road. It has a lot of things you expect in that kind of realm that you've seen in like Carpenter movies, like Escape from New York and LA. and then it closes with this fantastic car chase that is full of visual effects given the setting and the zombies on, like, the amount of zombies on display, but it's still incredibly well choreographed, and just it's a lot of fun. It's a fun action movie. It's less of a horror movie. Even the first Train to Busan, I think, works more as an action thriller than a horror movie, because it's not especially gory for a zombie movie, but for an action film, like, it does the job. What do you think?
I mean, it certainly is made with the caveat in mind that not everyone will have seen the first one.
Yeah.
There's a almost, I wouldn't say tongue in cheek, that's too strong of a word, but it definitely goes out of its way to get you up to speed if you either haven't seen the first one or haven't seen it in a while. It's very much playing a different genre sandbox. And again, I am not a zombie expert. You may be able to chime in. Is it rare enough to find a zombie film playing in the George Miller apocalyptic sandbox, or is that just?
I mean, like the best good one. I mean, the best example would be the Resident Evil films, right? I mean, that's the closest approximation. But I'm not the biggest fan of those films. I know they have a big audience, but I mean, that's the clear influence. I mean, the one film I kept thinking of was Doomsday. It was Neil Marshall's Doomsday.
Yes.
Like, if you take out, like, the medieval middle section of that movie, it's basically the first third and the last third of Doomsday in this movie.
Something that I liked, without going into details, is how it really focused on the idea of, what I always call, for shorthand, relative morality in an inherently immoral situation. You have these people that are basically trapped in a world surrounded by zombies. These are people that, in normal circumstances, might be decent and kind, or quote unquote good people that, whether they want to or not, often have to act in somewhat villainous ways just to survive.
I just realized that Land of the Dead also kind of deals with this as well, to an extent.
Is that the one where they're all the big building and all the rich people?
Yeah, it's where they have Dennis Hopper playing a certain kind of president, except he's more likable because he's Dennis Hopper.
That's right. I wonder what rewatching that one would play like. But no, it's visually, it looks fantastic. It's one of those movies that cost $16 million, and I hope no one got exploited, because it looks a lot more than $16 million bucks. You were correct. The third act finale is fantastic. It's a protracted multi-vehicle chase that, yes, I'm sure there's special effects and enhancement. There's obviously moments that are, that's CGI, but in terms of the choreography and the editing and frankly, the emotional investment, the film takes its time, especially in the second act. It really takes its time, almost to a point of a slow burn, in terms of developing its characters. So when the finale does come to pass, I gave a damn.
Yeah, I think, like better zombie movies, it knows how to cash in on the melodrama, where it's like you stick with these people because it wants you to make it matter when they start dying. So you get to this elaborate third act chase that's, I cannot emphasize this enough, pretty fantastic. Like, I mean, the first film is they're on a train the whole time. So this one's like, okay, they're not on a train, but we still have a giant chase involving hordes of zombies, various characters you have different kinds of feelings towards, and we'll just see how that all plays out. So, it's effective. It does its job.
And I feel stupid I didn't bring up the wiki page, so I'll have to look up this man's name. But the man who plays one of the lead villains, I think it's Captain SEO is the character's name, Captain CO. And it's a remarkably shaded, again, it's a very remarkably shaded and multi-dimensional portrayal of what could have been a very stock, working for the bad guys kind of character. And I was surprised how engaged I was emotionally, viscerally, beyond just the whole, it's a big budget zombie film, it has all the tropes and pleasures of that. It was a surprising, for me at least, it was just a damn good movie.
Just real quick, Scott, I just want to ask you, because you did get lucky enough to actually go to a theater to see this on an IMAX screen. Would you recommend that as a format to go see it in, if people actually can?
If you can, yes. This was the first movie I had seen in a theater of any kind in 4.5 months. The offer was made, and I said, yeah. And again, watching new release and or VOD movie after another on my TV or my laptop, there is a difference. I mean, obviously some of this is cliche, but yes, it was more immersive. Yes, it was easier to focus on the film in question. Yes, it was easier to not be distracted by the random, everyday life occurrences. Whether or not theatrical movie going is essential in the broad scheme of things, it's still the best way to see a movie, especially a good one.
Great. So I want to move this conversation over to Terence, and he's going to do our one television show because we're mainly like the movie folks today.
Yeah.
So Terence is nice enough to do the one TV show. Last week we did like mostly TV and like one movie, and this week we're doing the reverse. Terence, what do you want to talk about?
So I'm here to talk about DC Stargirl, which is also airing. It's airing on DC Universe and the CW, and it's a really interesting show. So basically, it's about this girl named Courtney, whose stepdad was the sidekick of Starman, and she comes into possession of his staff and decides that she is going to take it upon herself to become a hero. And it's a really fascinating show. Normally, it's giving me like, people know that I used to watch Teen Wolf. It's giving me like season 1 and season 2 Teen Wolf vibes of like pitch perfect summer teen TV show. You've got a lot of really great young actors in it. This show is vicious. Like, they are killing people off left and right, which is shocking for something that is centered around teens. But I really love how it's giving its young actors all this time to shine and doing some really great character work as well as some really interesting stunt work. To me, along with Doom Patrol, it's sort of like the crown jewel of the DC Universe offerings. And so it's been really fun. I know Rama, who's also in our organization, loves the show too, and he does weekly recaps for it. So we've both been geeking out about the show, but it's pretty fun. So if you're looking for something with a lot of character, a lot of heart, but also some kick-ass action, it's a pretty great show.
How does it compare to the other CW DC shows like The Flash and Supergirl?
Oh, wow. I think in terms of quality, this is up there. Legends of Tomorrow is the best superhero show on the CW. This is up there with it. The difference is just like, this is focusing on kids. So like a lot of the stuff that like the older heroes know is stuff that these kids don't. So it can be really frustrating when you just want these children to like stop and think of an actual plan, but they refuse to do that and they bust into the place that they shouldn't go anyway. But I put it's top tier. This is like top tier superhero television to me.
Oh, that's great. I've been wanting to watch this. I say that like every episode when we bring up a show, but I mean, I've been wanting to watch this show, but there's just so much to choose from, and it's very complicated. Like last week, Kevin suggested that I started watching Normal People, which I actually started watching last night, and it's great. It really is great. So
is that where you just go outside and just sit around for a while?
Yes, that's exactly what it is, Aaron. You just stare around and you say, is that person wearing a mask? That person's not wearing a mask. Which one's normal?
Then you tweet about it. # normal people online.
Yeah.
All right. So I guess, Aaron, why don't I let you go next? Since we have, well, I guess I should go next because a movie that is coming out this week is The Secret, which I got to screen earlier in the week. It's right here. It stars Katie Holmes.
What is this? There's a secret book, right? I'm aware of this,
yes,
right?
yes.
There's a book called The Secret. There was a movie about that book, right?
That came out at the exact same time, mind you. Yes.
And so is this connected to that? Is there more secrets?
Well,
there
no,
more
this is a
Too
fictionalized
many
version
secrets.
of the book brought to life.
Oh,
Wait, so
interesting.
there was already a movie with the book, and now this is another movie based off the same book?
Right, but a fictionalized version of that. So apparently,
It wasn't fiction already?
no. The original book was a self-help book.
Okay. I'm very disconnected from the
The secret universe. I understand. But so let me just fill you in real quick. So all you have to know about The Secret is that it's based on the idea to be kind to one another and do something positive for one another. That's basically what this whole entire movie is about. It's about a woman played by Katie Holmes. She's down on her luck. She has no money. Josh Lucas comes into her life randomly, and he brings all this positivity. There's a storm. He helps her out after the storm. And I'm sure if you saw the trailer, you probably know where this movie goes from there. Because I mean, it's funny because they were like, the twist ending, and I'm like, what twist ending? Like, it's literally like you could see it a mile away what's going to happen.
Is there an actor that switches back and forth between like slimy guy and like hero lead more than Josh Lucas these days? Like just last year in Ford v Ferrari, he's like, this guy sucks, and now he's the romantic lead in The Secret.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wasn't around like Hulk? He was like the Ang Lee's Hulk, which we all remember very clearly. He's like the bad guy in that, and then he's like Sweet Home Alabama, like he's the lead. Like he just seems always like he's going back and forth.
Well, here's a surprise: The Secret is actually directed by the same guy who did Sweet Home Alabama.
Boom! What Andy Tennant?
Yeah, there you go.
I had to reach into that one.
Yeah.
So there you go. He also did Hitch, if you guys remember that one with Will Smith, and gosh only knows what else. I mean, in all fairness, if I'm just going to call it like I see it, I mean, this is really like a Lifetime movie. I mean, that's the way I see it. Or like when they used to have ABC Family, that's the type of movie this feels like. It's feel good. It's innocent. In the time that we're in, where everyone's being so negative, I can understand why this movie will maybe find an audience, because it's very Mr. Rogers, where it's just like, do good things for your neighbor and be kind to one another. So it's refreshing, but it's like almost so sweet, you know, to use the old saying that it gives you a toothache, because it's like, it's ridiculous how sweet it is that you almost feel like it's not even taking place in this reality that we live in, where someone would just like a woman would let a stranger come over to her house to fix her car. Like that just wouldn't happen in this day and age anymore. But
Scott,
hey, it's nice to think about.
Did you, before the world ended, did you see Brahms the Boy too?
No, I did not.
I was going to ask if which Katie Holmes vehicle was better this year.
You're so mean.
Why is that? You're just assuming that's mean. I'm asking a question. That's all.
I mean, based on what I've heard about The Boy 2, I'm going to say that this movie is better, because I would say that this movie you would watch like if it was on Netflix. This is a perfect Netflix movie. But it's going on demand, so I guess so. But it's Lionsgate, so Lionsgate, as we all know, either they make really good movies or they make movies that should be on demand. So there you go. That's what this is. All right, Aaron, over to you. What do you got? Radioactive, maybe?
Yes, Radioactive. This is a new biopic about Mary Curie, the Nobel Prize winning scientist who discovered radium and polonium. It basically just goes over her life, specifically this period where she and her husband were able to make this discovery, do what it took to kind of get that knowledge out there, win a Nobel Prize for it. And it also kind of goes into her romantic history, as far as she and her husband, the work they did on that. Spoilers for history, what happens when her husband's not around anymore, and then kind of the later years of her life. It's directed by Marjan Satrapi, who made Persepolis. She also wrote the comic book Persepolis, but she directed that film. This it's not based off her own work. It's actually based off another graphic novel, which I kind of realized and then looked it up to be sure while I was watching it, because while as a biopic, it's pretty standard. And some people have superhero fatigue. I have biopic fatigue. This one, it tries to do something where it wants to make it not feel like a comic book necessarily, but it has some neat cinematography going on. It has some neat ideas of how to play with that. Anthony Menzel shot it, and I like what he does with the camera, and the way they kind of present how Mary Curie discoveries happen. In addition to showing that part of her life in that period setting, they also flash forward a few times to when the atom bomb was dropped, to the Manhattan Project, to the Chernobyl disaster. You see these this vivid imagery of the things that would happen in the future because of the things that she discovered, which I found to be pretty neat and effective, especially for a way to separate it from other standard biopics that just kind of go over the life of a person and don't have much to say beyond this is what you did and this is what you did next. And this one actually tries to do some neat stuff with kind of the visual format of it, which I appreciate. I think the score is quite good. Rosamund Pike plays Mary Curie. She's a good actress. She does a good job here. Sam Riley plays her husband. He plays he tries to go for handsome version of John Hurt, which I thought was kind of neat, given this the way he talks and everything. And then Anya Taylor-Joy, she plays her daughter, her grown daughter later on in life. Overall, the film it's on Amazon right now, so it costs you literally nothing to watch it except your Prime membership, assuming you don't have it already. And I think it's effective enough for a watch, as far as, hey, I'm getting to learn more about Mary Curie in this kind of stylistic way. It's made well enough, it's acted well enough. Not necessarily something that I need to watch over and over again, but I think it's effective.
All right, awesome. All right, we're gonna go back over to Mr. Mendelson. You look so amused there. How about we talk about the teen romance of the summer right now?
By default, basically everything this summer is by default. Kissing Booth 2 debuted on Netflix this past Friday. It's one of the first and so far only sequels to a Netflix original. I believe they did a sequel to All the Boys I Loved. Came out a few months ago. I don't particularly follow that franchise. But this one is basically part 2 of a book series that has, I believe, 4 novels in it. It was written by a young woman when she was 15 years old. She's 25 now. The first movie, released 2 years ago, was, publicity-wise, it got a ton of free publicity. It kicked off Netflix's so-called Summer of Love, where they started trying to release a bunch of romantic comedies that were attempting to approximate the old school Hollywood version, pretty successfully, I might add, compared to, say, Netflix tries to make a blockbuster, which, being generous, has a somewhat more mixed batting average. The film was about a young high schooler who basically falls in love with her best friend's older brother. Not the best movie in the world. I'm not exactly the target demographic. This one was better, just partially by default of having more going on. And it gives its teen heroine, played by Joey King, more to fuss over than just the dilemma of pursuing her best friend's older and much, much taller older brother. The relationship, and it took me a lot when I watched the first one 2 years ago. Something about this feels weird, and they're about the same age, give or take. But she's 5'1", and he's 6'4", and he's got a voice that's about as deep as Armie Hammer. And the character in the first film has kind of a temper, so it's I know this relationship isn't supposed to be predatory in nature. I'm not supposed to be thinking of 50 Shades here, but that's what I'm thinking here, because this kid's huge and she's tiny.
Adam Driver is 17 feet tall, and he stands next to everybody. Really okay. They just shoot down.
And I don't want to oversell this picture. It is what it is. It is very colorful. It has a handful of good actors, that young and old, that are having fun being there. It is a genuinely old school, pulpy little Hollywood romantic comedy involving teens. If this movie had come out in the 1990s, then people our age would pretend it would be nostalgic for it. It does kind of follow the 50 Shades / Twilight template in a way that intrigued me, intentionally or not. And I think that's part of why it's appealing to the target demographics more so than some of their other rom-coms, in that there's a certain escapist fantasy element to it. The film isn't concerned about her being a good role model or whether she's being convicted of crime. It's a TV-14 picture, but she has sex and nobody cares. That was kind of refreshing, frankly. The movie is not remotely prudish in that sense. Again, it's as someone that really didn't like the first one, this is a step in the right direction. And as far as that comparison goes, Kissing Booth 2 is definitely better than New Moon and 50 Shades Darker. And I can only hope that Kissing Booth 5 has a random Wendell Pierce cameo, an hour of people taking depositions, delivering subpoenas, and a batshit crazy action finale where everybody gets their head ripped off and someone pounds the ground and the earth opens up and wolves and vampires go tumbling in and it's everything you've ever seen. Avengers Endgame, eat your heart out.
So that happens, and then like Bright 2 still doesn't happen, right?
Yes. This is better than Bright, as most things are.
Well, all 5 of these movies cost as much as Bright cost, so that's understandably why.
Yeah.
But that was a great. You really sold it, Mendelson. I gotta tell you, I'm gonna when I get done tonight, put it on now. Done. Sold it.
Oh God.
It's 130 minutes. Just so you know.
I know. And the funny thing is I actually did like
130 minutes?
It's 132 minutes.
There you go.
That's longer than Bright, I assume, too.
Longer than the last Harry Potter movie. Which is always baffling me. Of all the ones you're going to make short, why that one? Anyway.
Well, because it's the second half of one movie.
It works. I liked enough that I wanted more.
Okay. All right. We're going now we're going for a trip. No, I gotta do one more. God, I keep screwing up today. Yes, God, Yes, which is my second pick, which also came out last week. Same date as Radioactive and The Kissing Booth. It's this movie right here with Natalia Dreyer, and it is based on Karen Main's real life when she grew up in the Midwest. It is a film about, so you get ready for this, ladies and gentlemen, masturbation. Are you okay, Scott? You all right? All right? Okay. All right.
I'm okay.
And Natalia plays the lead character, Alice, and Alice goes to Catholic school, and one day she comes home and she discovers AOL Instant Messenger. Someone randomly messages her, age, sex, location, if everyone's old enough to remember that on this podcast and where that might go. And things do go there. And she feels very guilty for her actions afterwards and goes to a retreat. And there she learns more about herself and then others around her. I saw this movie at the South by Southwest Film Festival back in 2019 because they didn't have one this year. And I have to say that it was one of my favorite films coming out of the festival. Short and sweet, unlike Kissing Booth 2. 73 minutes. 73 minutes.
My God, that's red eye short.
So there you go. So you get to watch. You can watch this movie twice, or Kissing Booth 2 once. So there you go. But I really, really, really liked it. I love movies that poke fun at religion, but I'm also a fan of satire as well. And this one kind of is a little bit of both. Karen Main, who also co-wrote Obvious Child, which I was a big fan of as well with Jenny Slate, is making her directorial debut with this film. She, as I said earlier, she wrote this and it's based on her own upbringing and whatnot. So highly recommended from me. Now we're going back in time to 2005 for Pride and Prejudice. And Terence is going to start it off.
Yes, to tell you about one of the greatest movies ever made. And a great comfort watch during quarantine. This is Pride and Prejudice, the 2005 version, adapted from the novel by Jane Austen. I've come to really appreciate this movie the older that I've gotten. I really liked it back then, and I love Pride and Prejudice as a story in general. Like almost any version of Pride and Prejudice is guaranteed for me to like it. But rewatching this movie, it's on Netflix for anybody who wants to watch it or rewatch it. Really digging into like the performances, particularly of Matthew McFadden, Emmy-nominated actor today for Succession, and Oscar-nominated actress Keira Knightley. Of just, I don't feel like we get that kind of interesting character work in period pieces anymore, particularly as it gets into romance. Like this is a movie without a lot of sort of like, now it's, I think of something like a Royal Affair, the Mads Mikkelsen, what is her name though? She won supporting actress, Alicia Vikander. Yes. Think about that movie and just like the differences in approach. But what I really appreciate about this version of Pride and Prejudice is that it doesn't stick directly to the book in terms of updating the time period, getting rid of certain characters, and not really feeling beholden to that. And then Joe Wright takes it and gives it this rich visual language on top of directing all of these really great performances. It is a delightful film. It will make you believe in love again. And it's just a good thing to watch during quarantine. It's very heartwarming. And I love this movie. And so I just wanted to sing its praises in another venue other than my Twitter feed.
Well, thank you, Terence.
Yes.
I mean, we can all talk a little bit about this film because I think all of us have seen it.
Only positive
I do remember
things.
seeing this back in 2005, and you know, I think it's one of the big movies outside of Pirates that really put Keira Knightley on the map. And Joe Wright,
in a more serious way, sure, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think also like this was like the first of 3 times that Joe Wright worked with her with Atonement, and then there was the other film that he did with her. I mean, I thought it was just I like Pride and Prejudice too, and I love that there's been all these different versions of it. This actually might be one of my favorite ones.
Mm-hmm.
So, but Aaron, Scott, do you have anything to say about this one?
I'm a Joe Wright fan. I like him in general. There's some movies I'm lesser on than others, but I mean, I think he certainly tries to bring a certain kind of style to the films he's doing, specifically period pieces. Like Anna Karenina, I think, has some really interesting stuff going on as far as a production design driven film. And yeah, what's the composer's name? Is it Dario Marianelli or something like that?
Marianelli, yeah.
I got that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That collab. It's weird that that's a collaboration that sticks out to me, but it does as far as the music goes, because that like in Atonement and in Hannah was Chemical Brothers. But I mean, he's good with music, and I think the Pride and Prejudice, I remember the score specifically really stood out for me as far as those films go. And yeah, I mean, I have not read the novel. I'm sorry, but I like the adaptation of it as a film. Like it worked for me. Like it seems to convey a sense of who these characters are quite well, as far as the depths specifically of her and Mr. Darcy. And it's always hilarious to think of Matthew McFadden, who had a very strong dramatic career and now is in Succession, where he's the least dramatic thing about that series. But it's certainly fun to see playing like stuffier guy. And thinking about that now, given what he's become more popular for these days.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Scott, you got anything to say? Nothing?
Really, it was a damn good film then. It is now. Joe Wright, even Pan looks terrific. Whatever those other issues of that film in terms of concept or whatever, it looked great. But yeah, I kept waiting for the zombies to show up. They never did.
Oh God, that is the one. That's the one version of Pride and Prejudice I do not like. Pride and Prejudice and zombies.
It's its own weird little thing.
It's not good.
No.
It's not good.
But no, it's one of the movies, which is why we, now make fun of the very idea of Keira Knightley actually wearing present day clothing in any movie, which apparently she is no longer allowed to do, by law. But yeah, it was terrific then. It's terrific now. I haven't seen it since 2005, so I don't have a ton of, modern day, what's the term that I'm looking for? Thoughts. That wasn't the term I'm looking for, but I'm giving up and I don't want to contrast. Yeah, I'll give it to you. It was
All
great
right,
then, and it's great now. And it's better than Darkest Hour.
There you go.
I like
Aaron, you're gonna close. You're gonna close us out with your last pick, and then we're gonna do one question that I have at the end. So, Aaron, what's the last movie you want to talk? Because you did a little bit of a deep dive.
My last pick is The War of the Gargantuas. 1966's War of the Gargantuas. I am very excited to talk about this film. I made a top 10 list on my phone of reasons why people should see War of the Gargantuas, because it is awesome. The first off, it's one of the best Frankenstein films you will see. Yes, it is a film about Frankenstein to some degree. It is a sequel to Frankenstein Conquers the World. You do not need to see that film to see this film to understand. But for Japan, for Toho, they wanted to make a King Kong movie. They couldn't get the rights, so they made a Frankenstein film instead, and they ended up with that. This is a sequel to that movie, and it's awesome. Also, as you can see in this poster, you get 2 Frankensteins for the price of 1. So, I mean, right there, that's a target. Like, why would you not want to watch this? You get 2 Frankensteins. And yes, they're like so in America they're referred to as Gargantuas. In Japan, they're called Frankenstein. They changed it around because that's just how we worked in the 60s as far as translating things. We called it Gargantuas. 3. It's directed by Godzilla director Ashiro Honda, and he brought his whole team, the same visual effects artist, special effects artist, so really visual effects. The same score, Akira Ifukube, who does the music for Godzilla. As people know, as my lovely girlfriend knows, as many know, I'm a huge fan of Godzilla. So you have him doing something really different, and not that completely different, but still, I'm all about it. It has awesome monster fights. As you can see from the creation design, they're not big rubber costumes, or at least they're not weirdly shaped rubber costumes. They're humanoids. That means the people inside them can perform better because it's easier to move. So the monster fights in this movie are pretty awesome. The next one, Russ Tamblyn is the American star in here. West Side Story's Russ Tamblyn, he's in this movie, and he's grumpier than Harrison Ford was narrating for Blade Runner. He was so not into doing this, but he basically took no direction and just did his own version of what he wanted to do on screen, and then he had to come back and redub his own lines. And so you can only imagine a man who already didn't want to be in this film decided to be in this film anyway, and then had to narrate the lines again that he was doing. So yeah, that's a performance in itself. It embraces its wackiness. Again, just from these images right here, you can tell that this movie embraces its wackiness. It very much knows the kind of movie it is. And it's, my next point, a perfect gateway to more kaiju movies. If you haven't seen many Godzilla films or other films of the kind, this one is very straightforward, requires nothing else to get you into it. And you can walk in and be like, that's what this seems like, and you can see more of them based off of this one alone. The next one, what I have? Guillermo del Toro, Tim Burton, Tarantino, Nicolas Cage all love this movie, and it inspired Brad Pitt to act. This is the movie that did it for him. He's like, that's it. Now I'm going to be an actor. That's what he said before. Oh my God. It's just over 80 minutes. This takes no time at all to watch. It's 80 minutes long, and it's super fun. You can just jump right in and be happy. And lastly, it's in HD on HBO Max right now. You can pause this because you'll come back because you want to. Watch this movie and be super satisfied, then come back to finish the conversation.
Wow.
Those are the top 10 reasons why War of the Gargantuas is definitely worth watching right away.
Okay. So I think you actually just set a new bar for this show. I think we're going to all have to live up to that expectation.
Oh my God.
So every time we do this show now, everyone's required to do a top 10 reasons to watch whatever you're talking about.
You've gotten the whole group out of me because now I've just given them homework.
Yeah, all this extra work. Thanks a lot.
Well, I did just watch Shanghai Nights a few weeks ago.
Well, it's so difficult to watch one of your favorite movies of all time, Shanghai Nights. That's not a joke. That's one of Scott Mendelson's favorite movies of all time.
It is.
It's not a bad movie. I'm not making fun of this fact. It's just if you ask somebody, what's your favorite movie of all time? And he lists, a couple ones that you'd expect, and then also Shanghai Nights. That's a fun thing to hear.
It's one of those, I wonder if you're actually paying attention, Bix. Like, what?
So my fun question, which I think, Aaron, you actually answered for Scott Mendelson, was I was going to say, while we've been in quarantine, is there a particular movie or television show that you have went back and rewatched as a comfort for being in this situation?
Rewatched or just watched?
No, rewatch. Something that like you love, that you have fond memories of, and that like gives you comfort.
Did you ask all of us or me, or did you ask somebody?
Everyone. But I feel like Scott Mendelson already answered already.
A Serbian film.
Oh God!
Did you say a Serbian film? Is that what you
I'm so glad I didn't drink any water just then.
Oh God!
Either that or Showa. That's how much time I've got.
Yes, just light, cheery. Nothing but light and cheeriness for you.
Exactly.
I guess the only way it could be worse if he said irreversible.
God.
Challenge accepted. Aquaman. My younger two kids had not seen it yet. I took my oldest to the screening back in December 2018. They loved it. My 5-year-old has watched it several times, either on Blu-ray or on HBO Max, and I enjoy it more every time. I mean, I don't want to get into better or best or whatever, but in terms of, it's a terrific superhero adventure. And I knew that, back when it first came out. I liked it quite a bit when I first saw it. I liked it even more when I saw it again, just, as a paying consumer. It really is. Every time I watch it, I'm shocked that it's only 140 minutes long because there's just so much movie there. There's like 1 million locations. There's like 100 different plot lines, and yet it all makes enough sense. It actually, it's coherent. It flows, no pun intended, and it works as a character journey. And visually, it's just bonkers bananas. It's everything I wanted out of, Justice League, for example. I don't hate Justice League, but
it's one of the best King Arthur movies that has come on in recent years.
Oh yeah, other than Excalibur, it might be the best King Arthur movie.
I just watched that for the first time the other day, but I can't talk about it. We're talking about rewatch stuff.
How about for you, Terence?
I've been rewatching Cougar Town. I don't know if you guys saw that show from several years.
Yes.
It's never not funny hearing the title.
Cougar Town, it's great, and I just love how during the opening credits, like they write something new on the title card every time. So I'm like trying to pause the episode to see what new thing they've written on the title card. I remember it being funny. I don't remember it being this funny. And I'm so glad that they took the approach. One of the few shows where I'm glad that they took the approach of not touching on current issues, because it's like great to go back and not have to worry about what like election was happening during the show, because they do not care. Like they're not going to talk about it. They're just trying to be really funny with these people who live in this cul-de-sac and the ridiculous things that they do and the crazy amount of wine that they drink every episode. So that's been fun. It's on Amazon Prime.
And for those who don't know, that's the show with Courtney Cox.
Yes.
Yes.
From the creator of Scrubs, right? It's Bill Lawrence show?
Yes.
I think so, yeah.
Never watched it, but I was like, oh, well, he's got another show.
Well, there you go. Yeah, it's very funny.
How about you, Aaron?
I'm deciding between things. I'll just speed through real quick. I watched all of Community again. I have not watched Community since Community was airing. I was a big fan of Community then. I'm still a big fan of Community now. It's a very funny show and very creative visually. You got a lot of, the Russos before they went on to Marvel Land doing some fun stuff. And then Fast and Furious, Justin Lin doing some episodes, like those paintball episodes and stuff. Really fun. I watched all of the Hobbit movies again because I had not seen them since they came out. and my morbid curiosity got the better of me. So I wanted to see, like, do I really not like these, or am I okay on them? I walked away with about the same thoughts I had. I liked the first one more than I remembered. The Smaug was about the same, and the Five Armies, I'm not big on that one. But that took me down a Peter Jackson rabbit hole. So then I watched all the Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, well, these are good. I'm not as big on them as some people are, but I mean, you can't knock the amount of greatness that's going on in these movies. You can roll your eyes all you want. I acknowledge that they're really well made, very good movies. They're just not they're not my trilogy.
I actually don't like them.
But I finish it off though with my favorite Peter Jackson movie, one of my favorite movies of all time, his King
Lovely
Kong.
Bones.
I love his King Kong. His King Kong is so good to me.
Aaron, you just constantly disappoint me.
I am such a fan of that movie. And you want to talk about running times? That movie, even not the extended version, is over 3 hours. Make it 6. I can watch it all day. King Kong would be so good. So that's the comfort watch right there, Scott. Putting that on, I'm like, well, it's King Kong. I'm not going to be disappointed by this. Like, I was super happy.
Well, that was a lot. You covered a lot. Like, you basically went down the Peter Jackson rabbit hole.
Yes.
I honestly have been watching a lot of 90s movies and early 2000 movies, and I keep watching them and I say, boy, this would never be made today. And I will be fully honest and say that I watch and I love a lot of movies that a lot of people do not like whatsoever. Like, some of my favorite movies is probably like Bubble Boy and Tommy Boy, and like really silly offbeat comedies that I think, I don't know. I mean, I was even watching Deuce Bigelow the other day.
Oh, God.
I just watch all these movies and I keep saying to myself, there's no way that these movies would ever be made today.
Mm-hmm.
Tommy Boy would be fine.
No.
Tommy Boy.
I mean, I think, first of all, some of those movies, Bubble Boy, for example, that was a bomb back in 2004 or whatever. It's for the record, I don't disagree with you, but I think it's more of a commercial consideration versus Drop It Thunder would never get made today because of political correctness. Use that one as an obvious example. That movie made $188 million on a $100 million budget in 2008. So that wasn't even a hit when people went to Star-driven comedies. The thing that always stood out about Tommy Boy for me is that the film was a success, and instead of making a sequel, they made another movie with the two of them.
Yeah,
which
like
the worst possible version of an Apollo.
Yeah, it was Black Sheep, I think.
Yeah.
Watch the Black Sheep Hive attack us on Twitter now for talking.
Another movie I watched recently that I love too is Josie and the Pussycats.
Yes.
Which also bombed horribly.
Yes.
Terrence, are you always disappointed with me? Like he's like listening to these movies. He's like, oh my God. Like, this
I'm not disappointed. I'm not disappointed in you. I say my disappointment for Aaron.
Oh, okay. Okay. Because he has higher standards than me. I mean, I understand. I mean, just look at the movies behind.
Tommy Boy.
He does not have higher standards.
Time in Hollywood. He's got the Mel Brooks.
I could pull out Night at the Roxbury from my collection.
Oh, that's a good movie. I like that movie too. See, I'm all about those movies. Coneheads, Problem Child. Like, they put out that Rotten Tomatoes list, and I was like,
goofy Criterions in here. What are you talking about? Like Mildred Pierce. That's a goofy one.
All right, I was just curious. Honestly, I was just curious because I know a lot of people have been talking about like what they've been rewatching because it's like comfort food. Everyone's kind of needs that. So right now. So, well, this was a fun episode. Thank you everyone for participating.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So can everyone just go around the room real quick just to close us out? Just once again, where you can find you and all that good stuff, and then we'll close out. We'll start off with Aaron.
I host a podcast with my friend Abe. It is called Out Now with Aaron and Abe. We talk about weekly movie releases as well as do commentary tracks every month. Terrence and Scott are on it often. I also write for WeLiveEntertainment.com and WiseTheBlue.com, and I'm both my personal blog, thecodeisZeke.com. Everything I do ends up over there.
All right, awesome. And we'll go to Terrence next.
You can find all of my writing at lenoirauto.net. LENOIRAUTEUR.net, and then at Terence B. Johnson on Twitter and Instagram.
Okay, awesome. And then last but certainly not least, Scott Mendelson.
Scott Mendelson. I'm a contributor over at Forbes.com. That's how you find me. Just Google some variation of Scott Mendelson, Forbes, the ticket booth. My Twitter is at Scott Mendelson. I have a Facebook page, but that's mostly for family pictures and what have you. You want my random conjecture and or all of my articles, that's Twitter.
There you go. You can find me over at We Live Entertainment as well, and at the other Scott M on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode. We'll be back next Wednesday, and we'll see you soon. Have a good night, everyone. Take care.